Fashion, vintage fashion. The dresses and coats, the muumuus and evening gowns worn by women in decades gone by. They all tell a story, not just of that woman, but of the time and place where she wore them.
These things belong to someone. They meant something to someone at some point in time. And we're such a throwaway society. And there are so many people out there that really treasure these items. They know the history, that people have been there. It's like an old building where you can go in and really imagine all the things that have happened over hundreds of years in an old castle.
Well, if these vintage outfits are castles full of history, then surely Tricia is the gatekeeper. She's the driving force behind the Centennial Belles, a group of vintage enthusiasts who began collecting and creating fashions to celebrate Port Alberni's 1912 natal date. But since then, the group has grown to celebrate and collect fashions from the 1800s right up until the present time, presenting them in fashion shows that provide a glimpse of social history.
It's quite exciting, actually. It kind of takes you back to a whole other era just with trying the clothes on themselves. So it's, I mean, what woman doesn't like to play dress up?
Sometimes fashion dictated exactly what we should be wearing, but it was really because of what was happening in the world. I mean, in World War II during the early 40s, you were wearing anything from the 30s because everything was rationed. If you were making a skirt, they told you exactly what the yardage had to be.
Tricia is a veritable treasure trove of information about social history, and it's that history, as much as the spectacle of the clothes themselves, that forms the basis for the Centennial Belles fashion shows.
I will set up the 40s and let people know this is where women were and this is what they went through and this is how fashion has impacted that decade. And then we see what has happened, sometimes 3 or 4 models at a time, sometimes one that needs a fair amount of commentary. And then we go into the 50s and 60s and we see how the times are reflected in fashion and fashion is reflected in the times.
It definitely puts you, it gives a bit more of a face to a story that you might hear about women back in the day. And again, to just combine the clothing with that and hear the stories, it really makes it quite the experience.
And an experience meant to be shared. The Centennial Belles Fashion Show Visions in Vintage is being held on Saturday, April 7th at 2 o'clock at Echo Centre and features fashions from the 1940s through to the 1990s. Tickets are available at Boutique Belles Amies and online.